I'm Esther, host of Once Upon a Crime. Halloween is over as of last week, but here at Once Upon a Crime, it's always spooky season. We're still in the mood for creepy stories and hauntings. So, on that note, I thought I'd revisit a series topic I covered in season 3 of the podcast, Haunted Homicide. In this first story, we'll go back over 100 years to learn about a Romeo and Juliet story that ended in a cold-blooded murder. On the property where the killing took place now sits a stone building known by locals as the Witch's Castle. Tourists still flock there, and some say that the restless spirits of the murdered man, his widow, and the killer roam there on nights when the moon is full. This is the story of the murder of Mortimer Stump and the haunting of the Witch's Castle. Picturesque Forest Park is a 5,200-acre urban wilderness located in the northwest corner of Portland, Oregon. 8 miles long, Forest Park offers 70 miles of trails that wind through paths, gardens, woods, and streams. It's a popular destination for hikers, runners, cyclists, equestrians, and leashed dogs. The most popular trail in Forest Park is a 5-mile up-and-back walk from Lower Maclay Park to the Piddock Mansion, a 46-room French Renaissance-style estate built in 1913 for publisher George Piddock and his wife Georgiana. The Piddock Mansion has been featured in movies and television shows, including The Amazing Race. It was the setting for the 1982 slasher film Unhinged and the 1989 horror flick The Haunting of Sarah Hardy. But before fictional accounts of supernatural occurrences were filmed in Forest Park, rumors of real hauntings and strange goings-on were part of local lore. If you take a winding trail, only accessible by foot, through the lush green forest, before you reach the mansion, you'll come upon the ruins of a stone building. This building, which some call the Stone House, has been dubbed a more colorful name, the Witch's Castle. The roof and most of the walls have crumbled away into the forest floor decades ago. The 2.5-foot thick stone walls that remain are marked by vibrant graffiti, a jarring sight in such a peaceful and serene setting hidden in the middle of the forest. Stone steps remain that lead brave hikers down into a dark, damp basement. Local legend has it that a coven of witches claimed this place as their own, using it to cast spells and perform dark magic. Some believe that because of this, a portal to the underworld opened, allowing spirits to return. The spirits now haunt these woods, especially the area nearest the Witch's Castle. But longtime Portlanders say that while it may be true that the stone house was used by witches, it is not random spirits that haunt these woods. They say that the restless spirits you'll encounter in Forest Park belong to a murder victim, his widow, and the killer. It is these 3 unfortunate souls who remain trapped here. Mortimer and Anna Stump's and Danford Balch's lives are as intertwined in death as they were in life. It is their story I'll tell you now. The story of Mortimer Stump and Anna Balch reads like Romeo and Juliet. However, instead of being set in 15th century Verona, Italy, their tale would begin and end in Oregon Territory in the 1850s. Anna's father, Danford Balch, was an early settler to the area. He arrived in 1847 with his wife and children via the Oregon Trail. When Balch married Mary Jane Curtis in 1842, she was a widow with 2 children. Together, they expanded their family to 9 children, 5 boys and 4 girls. Anna was the oldest. From this detail, we can infer that Anna was the daughter of Mary Jane's first husband, and that Balch then would be her stepfather. Portland, Oregon was recently founded when the Balch family arrived. Within a few years of settling in the territory, Danford Balch was deeded almost 346 acres of land by the U.S. government through the Donation Lands Claim Act of 1850. The Land Claims Act was enacted by Congress to promote homestead settlements by white pioneers. Over the next few years, Balch cleared the forest land and built a large cabin for his family. The land Balch was deeded is now the Northwest Heights neighborhood in present-day Forest Park. Northwest Heights is one of Oregon's most valuable real estate properties today. As an early settler and major landowner, Danford Balch was a prominent and respected citizen who'd come from humble beginnings. Danford Balch was born in 1811 in Massachusetts. His mother was widowed when he was just a baby. She'd relocated to New York and married again when Danford was 4 years old. His mother had 4 children with her second husband. The family moved to Ohio when Danford was 9. He remained in Ohio until he was an adult and struck out on his own to improve his lot. Balch pulled himself out of poverty by risking the rough trek to an unknown territory, which paid off handsomely. He even employed hired help to assist him in working his land. One of the workers was 26-year-old Mortimer Stump. Stump, born in Hardy, West Virginia in 1831, was the oldest of Cuthbert and Paulina Stump's 7 children. He was briefly married when he was 22, but what happened to his first wife is unclear. It's possible that she succumbed to an illness or some other misfortune and died, but this is mere speculation since there is no record of her. Around 1857, Stump was employed by Balch to work as a handyman on his property. The 25-year-old saw his boss's pretty 15-year-old daughter and became smitten. Before long, Anna confessed her attraction to him as well. After Anna celebrated her 16th birthday, Stump approached her father and asked him for her hand in marriage. Balch became enraged. How dare his hired hand ask to marry the landowner's daughter, he railed. Stump would never marry Anna, Balch vowed. He fired Stump on the spot and threatened that if he ever tried to take his daughter away, he would beat him within an inch of his life. Anna was heartbroken. She was in love with Mortimer Stump. He was a good, hardworking man from a wonderful family, and she thought her father was completely unreasonable. Anna, being a headstrong girl, didn't intend to give up without a fight. It was decided that she and Mortimer would elope. Mortimer and Anna snuck away together, crossing the Columbia River to Vancouver, Washington. In those days, Washington Territory had less stringent marriage laws than Oregon. It did not require notification of parents or a waiting period before a marriage license was issued. Back in Oregon, Danford Balch learned of his daughter's elopement and became angry and depressed. He began drinking heavily, often showing up at the town saloon, drinking until he couldn't stand, and swearing vengeance against Stump for, quote, stealing his daughter. On November 8, 1858, a week after they were wed, Mortimer and Anna returned, stopping in town to pick up household supplies. Anna's father was drinking in the saloon when he learned his daughter was back. Balch confronted the couple on the street. Stump shielded his new bride, whose father ordered her to get into his wagon and return home. Stump's father, Cuthbert, and at least 2 more of Mortimer's brothers had ridden into town with the couple. The Stumps put young Anna in their wagon while they had words with her father. Stump's father and Balch got into a heated argument. Mortimer stepped in and stopped it, pulling his father away. Father and son mounted the wagon and rode off. They decided it was best if Mortimer and Anna returned across the river to Vancouver as soon as possible to avoid any further hassles with her father. Balch, already inebriated, returned to his home and continued drinking. The alcohol added fuel to his anger, and his thoughts turned dark. He grabbed a double-barreled shotgun and returned to town. Balch caught up with the Stumps at the Stark Street ferry landing. Anna and Mortimer had just climbed off the wagon to board the incoming ferry. His father and brothers were near their wagon when Danford Balch approached. Before they could react, Balch strode past them, towards Mortimer, raised the shotgun, and shot his daughter's groom in the face. Mortimer Stump fell to the ground, dying instantly as a pool of blood formed around him. Anna screamed in horror and chaos ensued. The ferryman and passengers grabbed Balch by the neck and wrestled him to the ground. The shotgun was confiscated, and Balch was roughly dragged to the nearby makeshift wooden jail. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. November is the month of gratitude. I'm grateful to all of you for listening to this podcast. It's gratifying to share my stories with you. Sometimes we forget to show gratitude to someone very important, ourselves. Here's your reminder to show yourself some love this month, and always. One way we can love ourselves is by starting therapy. If you've thought about starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. As a BetterHelp client myself, I've found that talking with my therapist reduces my stress, helps me learn better coping skills, and identifies behavior patterns that may have been holding me back. All great things to learn to live a better life. A BetterHelp therapist can help you with major life transitions and small everyday decisions that can move you towards your better life. It's entirely online and designed to be convenient and suited to your schedule. You just complete a brief questionnaire to be matched with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/once today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/once. Spark something uncommon this holiday with just the right gift from Uncommon Goods. Gift-giving season is upon us, and if you're looking for something special for someone special, Uncommon Goods is your go-to gift spot. Uncommon Goods scours the globe for original handmade unique gifts your recipients will love. Truly one-of-a-kind gifts can be found at Uncommon Goods. One of my best finds was a custom-made holiday sweater with a photo of my friend's beloved pets as part of the design. Perfect for those whose pets are family. I also found a tabletop cocktail smoker for that hard-to-buy-for guy that I know loves a good whiskey drink. You'll find kids' gifts, sporting gifts, book lovers' gifts, you name it. There's something for everyone at Uncommon Goods. This holiday season, make life easier by shopping at Uncommon Goods. And with every purchase you make at Uncommon Goods, they give $1 to a nonprofit partner of your choice. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/once. That's uncommongoods.com/once for 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. You know, when you discover a new binge-worthy true crime show or podcast, you just can't wait to tell your friends how awesome it is. That's kind of what it feels like when you discover that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. And that includes high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered through the nation's largest 5G network. Mint Mobile's deal is so awesome, there's no way you can keep it to yourself. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Does that sound complicated? Well, it's not. I did it, and believe me, I'm the least savvy person when it comes to that kind of stuff. But I found it super easy to do with the kit Mint Mobile sent me, and my cell phone coverage is amazing. I'm super happy I found Mint Mobile's premium wireless for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/once. That's mintmobile.com/once. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/once. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower than 40 gigabit on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Portland had only been founded as a municipality a few years earlier and did not yet have a permanent dedicated jailhouse. Before long, Balch escaped this flimsy structure and hid out in the woods on the land he owned and knew so well. It took months before he was finally apprehended and brought to trial. At his trial, several people testified how they'd witnessed Balch unravel after his daughter's elopement. He drank to excess daily in the town saloon, sometimes blacking out from drinking. He made verbal threats, saying he wanted to kill Mortimer Stump for stealing his child. In August 1859, after a 4-day trial, Danford Balch was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to hang. Once his fate was sealed, Balch agreed to give a full confession of his actions on the day of the shooting. He first described his distress upon learning that Anna had eloped. Quote, "The night I came home and found the girl gone, it struck a pain to my heart, like a knife cutting me," Balch stated. "I ate a little supper and went to bed, but did not sleep a wink all night. In the morning, at once after getting up, I started for town, and it seemed as if my stomach would burst from anxiety and grief, which were more than I can express." End quote. Rumors and speculation have been raised over the years about why Balch was so emotional about his daughter's marriage. She was young by today's standards, but in 1858, girls often married at that age and even younger. Diane Goras Gardner, a historian who has written several books about Oregon's history, writes in her book titled Necktie Parties, quote, "Danford Balch's description of his emotional, physical, and psychological state sounded more like a man describing the loss of a lover than a daughter." However, I could find no reports that Balch was having an inappropriate relationship with his daughter. Still, I suppose that could be construed by some, given that he was not Anna's biological father. However, it's also possible that he was just a very controlling man, especially regarding his wife and children. There will be more evidence for this theory in just a moment, but I digress. After describing his distressed mental state, Balch claimed that the killing was a series of events that had spun out of control. He even went so far as to say that he felt that his life was threatened. Balch said that he had run into the Stumps while in town. He said it was Mortimer and his father who'd approached him aggressively. Balch claimed the older man began, quote, growling and muttering at him. He accused the man of making derogatory comments about Anna after expressing that he didn't understand why Balch was so upset. Quote, "He cursed a great deal and said I was making a great fuss about my child, that she was an ordinary little bitch and he didn't know what I wanted of her." End quote. Skipping over the part where he returned to his home and retrieved the shotgun, Balch continued his story, stating that when he saw Anna at the ferry landing, it was the first time he'd seen her since she eloped. Balch claimed he brought the shotgun with him because he had previously been threatened by Mortimer Stump. He claimed it was Stump that said, if I ever came after my girl, he would pound me within an inch of my life. A little bit of projection there. Yes, he had gone to the ferry, Balch admitted, but only, quote, with the intention of getting my child. When he arrived, he saw the Stump men standing near the wagon and Mortimer near the ferry. At that moment, Balch says, the two other Stump men approached him. A third, he claimed, had followed him from the street. He described how he had the shotgun lying across his arms as he walked towards his daughter. As he turned to look over his shoulder, worried about the men who were behind him, the gun suddenly and unexpectedly fired. How it went off, Balch claimed, quote, I cannot tell. As the smoke cleared, he saw his son-in-law lying in a pool of blood. It was then that Balch said he was grabbed roughly by witnesses and delivered to the jail. At the end of his confession, Balch states his concern for his family after his sentence is carried out and he is no longer alive to provide for them. Speaking first of Anna, he says, not mentioning her name, which I find interesting, quote, I suppose the married one will not return home. As to his remaining children, Balch says that he hoped his wife would, quote, put them out to good homes where they will be well trained and educated. He then addresses the issue of his property, saying he believed his portion of the estate would be used to pay restitution to the victim's family. He expresses his wish that his wife would deed the other portion to his children. As for how his wife would be provided for, Balch suggests that she could rent the property in the meantime for her and the children's support. So even as he sat awaiting his date with the gallows as a murderer and condemned man, Balch was making decisions for his wife and children as if they could or should not make decisions for themselves. This may suggest the level of control he was used to exhibiting with his family. We may gather clues as to how his wife Mary Jane and daughter Anna felt about him by reading news reports from the day of his hanging. On Monday, October 17, 1859, Danford Balch was led to the gallows at 10:30 a.m. He would be the first person to be legally executed in Portland. A reporter with the Weekly Oregonian described the scene, writing that on a cold, windy, rain-drenched day, over 500 people turned out to, quote, witness the death of this unfortunate man who, under the excitement of intoxicating drink, ignorance of the law, and evil advice, slew his fellow man, end quote. Among the witnesses who watched as the trapdoor to the gallows was swung open were his daughter Anna and his wife Mary Jane. News reporters who were on hand that day expressed their distaste that they would attend his hanging. One reporter wrote, quote, the idea of a daughter, by her own volition, attending the execution of a father upon a gallows is a disgrace to the intelligence of the age and to every principle of filial affection manifested or exhibited by every species of the brute creation, in the sea or upon the earth, end quote. Did Anna Stump wish to watch her father swing from the gallows because he killed her husband, the man she was in love with and had pledged her life to? Or was there some other reason? Had Balch been abusive and controlling with her and her mother? Had he attempted to keep her under his thumb since he first married her mother? Was Anna's elopement with Mortimer Stump, in part, an opportunity to escape her controlling stepfather? We'll never know for sure. If ghost stories are to be believed, Anna's soul is still not at rest. Her spirit is rumored to haunt the property, as do the spirits of her murdered husband and the ghost of her hanged father. First, I must explain what happened to the property after Balch's death. Against his wishes, his widow retained the deed to the most valuable portion of the land. It is rumored that Balch's children may have later been cheated out of their portion of the estate by unscrupulous legal representation. In any case, the original property was granted to the city of Portland in 1897. For decades, it was called the Old Balch Place. At some point, the original cabin was demolished. In the 1930s, a stone structure was built near the site of the Old Balch Place. It was commissioned as a project of the Works Progress Administration to be used as a park ranger station with restroom facilities for park tourists. In 1964, the ranger station was damaged beyond repair during the Columbus Day storm. The wooden roof was destroyed and the building was abandoned. Over the years, nature took over what is now called the stone house. Moss began to cover the walls, the windows and doors were broken and carried away, and all that was left was the outline of the original structure because of its thick stone walls. In the 1980s, teenagers discovered the stone house in the woods and began using it as a place to party. Graffiti began to sprout up on the walls, and stories were shared about its murderous origins. Naturally, this led people to start speculating that it might be haunted. Locals began reporting stories about strange phenomenon happening in the woods. Unexplained lights floated throughout the property. Called orbs by some, these mysterious lights sometimes showed up in photos taken by visitors. To be sure, any creepy old ruin found in the middle of a forest with a dark basement and a murder story attached will foster rumors of supernatural occurrences. But when stories began being spread that witches were using the house to perform spells and rituals, it added exponentially to the rumors that the place was haunted. Did witches really use the stone house to conduct rituals? Possibly. Or perhaps it's just a colorful story. It also made for a more dramatic moniker. The stone house became the Witch's Castle, a name that has stuck to it ever since. A historical marker in front of the Witch's Castle provides the following information about its origins. In 1859, it reads, Danford Balch was convicted and hanged for shooting his son-in-law. His hanging, the first legal one in Portland, and the subsequent disposal of his land, made news well into the 20th century. Of course, the most interesting stories about the haunted Witch's Castle are tied to that long-ago murder and the hanging of Danford Balch. Mortimer Stump's ghost, wearing wedding clothes and with half his face blown off, is said to haunt the woods, still looking for his bride. Anna, in a wedding dress, can be seen floating into the woods, her ghostly wails sending shivers down visitors' spines as she cries over the loss of her murdered husband. Danford Balch is still hiding out in the woods, as he did during his brief escape from the law. But this time, his eyes bulge, his face is ghostly white, and a tightened noose dangles from his neck. That will do it for this episode of Once Upon a Crime. I'll be back next week with another haunted homicide, and I hope you'll join me then. To have access to even more true crime stories, become a Once Upon a Crime insider. Join our Patreon to get an additional episode every month, every episode ad-free, and if you join now, you'll have access to our special Halloween party video that was just released. In it, I'm joined by Neil and Megan from the Mortal Musings podcast. We share some creepy true crime stories, play a true crime trivia game, and have some fun, in costumes. Go to patreon.com/onceuponacrime to find out more and join. Once Upon a Crime is written and produced by me, Esther Sanchez-Ludlow. My executive producer is Lorena Garcia, and my researcher is Emma Battaglia. To watch videos of each of our episodes, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll find it under Once Upon a Crime Podcast. There's a link in the show notes. Until next time, be good to one another.